In this video, I'm going to discuss a simple strategy that can go a long way in helping prevent spiritual abuse. My name is Dr. Felucia. I'm a licensed psychologist, and my channel and my private practice focus on spiritual abuse, especially preventing it, detecting it, and also recovering from it. So, back to what I talked about at the very beginning, preventing spiritual abuse. What's one simple thing that you can do to help in this area? I'm going to put it to you in the letter P. So basically, protecting your privacy as prevention. I'm going to repeat it. Protecting your privacy as prevention. And when I've had different videos on this, as well as all live videos, just talking about things, practical things that people can do to prevent spiritual abuse. And I don't have time to go over all of them in this video, but I do want to emphasize how protecting your privacy is really important. When I analyze cases of spiritual abuse, I noticed that privacy is frequently violated. And it is not at all your fault if you have been a victim of spiritual abuse. Not saying that you're having your privacy violated is your fault at all. What I am saying is that when for many of you who've been through spiritual abuse, navigating new environments can be overwhelming. It can be very challenging. And you can wonder, like, goodness, like, what can I do to prevent this from happening? And when we focus on prevention in the form of protecting your privacy, number one, it gives you a lot of control in that situation. Um, when you are in spiritually abusive environments, sensitive information is used against you. And that's one way that you can differentiate a healthy environment from an abusive one. And it's not just spiritual environments, it can also happen in like workplaces and relationships. How does the person or environment relate to your privacy? So when I talk about prioritizing your privacy and protecting it, it can look a lot of different ways. I'll focus on some practical ways. The first thing is just being very careful with your information. Um, a lot of times when you go to these environments, they'll want you to give them a phone number, an address, things like that. And before you do that, ask how that information is being used. And even if they give you a particular answer, I wouldn't necessarily believe what they tell you, right? And we hear about these things all the time in the news, how information is sold and privacy is leaked, but I would be careful before giving out your information. If you go to a place and they want information from you, you don't have to fill out the entire form, right? If you have a form, you don't have to fill it out. You can provide a phone number. It doesn't have to necessarily be your phone number, right? But you can put a phone number there if you want, or not do that. Or perhaps you can, put a phone number and also have that institution's phone number so that if they call and you don't feel like picking up, you don't have to pick up. My point is that I don't want you to feel obligated to share beyond what you feel comfortable with. And, when you think about, once you put your information out there in an environment like this, you don't really have control over it. And so when you do that, do that wisely. You can ask if your information will be published in a directory, and if you can opt out of it. If you don't get clear answers or answers that you're comfortable with, then I would just advise not even filling it out at all. So there's your privacy. Think about phone numbers, think about addresses, even, and be careful who you share that information with. Another thing that you want to be protective of regarding your privacy is details of your personal life. Um, think about a friend. If you meet a friend for the first time, you're not going to just spill every single thing that's going on with you at that moment in time. You're going to want to wait and get to know the person a little better. And I believe that you should take the same approach with any spiritual institution that you go to. A hallmark of some of these abusive situations, not situations, but environments and people, is that they really try to rush the process of intimacy and relationship building. They might want you to share very personal information, and they might use that information against you. They might share it with other people without your permission. And one concerning trend that I'm seeing is people saying that, hey, they shared something with somebody or a group of people in confidence, and it got back to other people and was also used against them. So you can, think about what you feel comfortable sharing, right? And you have the right to change your mind. You might think you would want to share certain information, and then based on the interaction that you have at that moment, you might decide not to. And so sometimes people get really concerned because they, want to appear friendly. They don't want to really offend people. And so how do you respond when asked certain questions? You can give generic information. You can just say, I don't really feel comfortable answering that question right now. And see how people respond. This is also, in addition to protecting your privacy in situations like this as a way of preventing spiritual abuse, it's also a great litmus test to see how people do with boundaries. People who are spiritually abusive can be quite pushy. Not all of them, but some of them can be really quite pushy about getting you to share things that you're not comfortable sharing or that you're not ready to share. And so if you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable sharing and you get a negative or manipulative response, that's a huge red flag right there. And I would caution you to be very careful how you proceed. So there could be privacy about your life, your demographic information. And then also, you can just generally have the attitude of one who's more of a passive observer, right? And so there are certain things that you can do in these types of environments that protect your privacy. You can, you can, let's say you're in some kind of group and there's a certain level of participation that everyone is engaged in. You don't have to feel pressure to adapt to that. Another way that I see people's privacy being violated a lot of times is under the guise of prayer, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with prayer. I think prayer is great. It's very helpful for a lot of people. But I have seen spiritually abusive people and environments use prayer as a way of invading your privacy and trying to gain control. And so they might say, well, you know, what can I be praying for you about? And then you share something personal or maybe something you didn't want other people to know about, and then it's like sent in some kind of email blast or whatever. And I'm not always saying that when people violate your privacy, it is done out of bad intentions, but it can still be devastating nonetheless if you're expecting privacy and you don't get it. And so one thing you can ask is, well, how's this information shared? If I share something I'd like prayer for, who else knows about it? You can be very upfront in asking about it. And also, again, they might be that what they tell you may not even be what happens. And so it's important to have a measured perspective when going into things like that. Sometimes spiritually abusive people will use fake concern to try and get you to overshare or share vulnerabilities that they will use against you later. Right. And so people, you all have talked about a lot of this stuff in your comments and how you shared things that you're going through. And then in the moment it's validated, but then later on it's used as like a way of showing that you're a weak or a bad person. And so the next time someone says, well, I feel like I really need to pray for you or whatnot, or they try to get you into a situation to pray with them, you don't feel comfortable, you can always pass and just say, what, I'm good right now. Or, I'm sure you can figure out a way that will work for you in that moment. But my point in saying that is that you don't have to necessarily just go along with what that person wants because they are coming to you under the guise of concern veiled in prayer. Okay, so you don't have to share. You can share something generic, or you can just choose not to share something at all. My point is take your time and protect, and taking your time means protecting your privacy. And not only are you protecting your privacy, you're also using your protection of your privacy as a way to test out the environment. If any of the things that I talked to you about, any of the techniques I shared, if you use any of these and you sense a very negative, controlling, or manipulative reaction from that environment, that is a huge red flag that you probably need to explore going somewhere else. So I hope that information helps. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. How do you protect your privacy? And what are some things that you feel are helpful? What would you share with other people that you feel would be helpful to their situation? All right. So I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.